Hello everyone, GeneralApple here with the House in Fata Morgana playthrough part 11. And yeah, last time we started the final door, the fourth chapter, which is already off to a good start. It's so ominous, but we got so much information about the white-haired girl. I mean, at least the first one, as we know of. And I decided to call this dude Michael because I think it's just easier. I know it's not pronounced this way, but I think it's just easier and it's way more fluid and just smooths things out. So hopefully you won't be mad with me. But yeah, let's just inspect our memories and dive right back where we left off, which is the cursed man. It had been about a week since the white-haired girl had taken up residence in the mansion. It's weird. She still called her the white-haired girl and not Giselle. Maybe it's not her true name. Staying in that house, deprived of light, was, I imagine, a very claustrophobic experience. To anyone blessed enough to have sunlight as a part of their everyday lives, it would have been unbearable. But for her, the mansion, with its prison walls and lack of either illumination or recreation, was the one place she could find respite. She and Michael continued to be distant, however. He spent most of his time in his chambers, which he had explicitly told the white-haired girl to stay out of, leaving her unable to close that gap. Nonetheless, on the occasion they did cross paths in the hallway, their eyes would meet, if but briefly. It was never more than a few seconds. Whenever she saw him, she made a point of giving him a little smile. He never said anything, but still, when she had first arrived, he would not even met her gaze. He seems to be taking more and more notice of her. One day, the white-haired girl stood in the cellar, a frown on her face. Well, this is troubling. I can't go down to the village, but if we don't do something soon... The cellar was where their food was stored, an assortment of non-perishable and dried food, smoked meats, and cheeses. Her daily meals were taken from the supplies there. However, the stockpile was beginning to grow quite small. Were she not on the run, she could have gone to the village to procure more. Or perhaps, were she a little tougher, she would have captured a wild animal for its meat. But master, you know a young, delicate thing like her was hardly up to the task of hunting for food. How does he normally get his supplies, I wonder? From here, other questions about Michael started rising in her mind. No matter how lifeless he seemed, surely he still had to eat, right? The white-haired girl nodded, then made her way out of the cellar, intending to head for his bedchamber. Ah, but on her way there, she spotted him standing by the entrance, staring motionless at the door lit by a single candle. He appeared to be waiting for something. May I ask you a question? Go on. I was just down in the cellar and I noticed we were running low on food. Do you normally go down to the village to restock? I haven't been outside in 10 years. Then how do you... What if I told you I don't eat? What? That I'm not of this world, and as such I have no need of sustenance. What would you think of that? That sounds very economical. If you can survive without having to eat, that's one less thing to worry about. If it were possible, I'd like to have that ability too. It would seem trying to frighten you is a waste of time. Was I supposed to be afraid? Never mind. It doesn't matter. You asked about the food in the cellar. It's getting to be about that time. Wait, and you will find out. Why do you... It's here. Oh. If you want to know where my supplies come from, open the door. But I'm in hiding. There's no one at the door anymore. The knock is nothing more than a signal. A signal? The white-haired girl turned towards Michael to press him for more information, but he averted his gaze. Find the answer yourself, he seemed to be saying. She took several moments to gather her will, then marched over to the door. So bright! The sunlight, which she had not seen in some time, was so bright it seemed to burn her eyes. Although the sun itself had not gotten any brighter, she had simply spent so much time in the dark, her eyes were no longer accustomed to that much light. The color of her eyes made them quite sensitive to light already, so when she stepped outside, her whole world went bone white. The white-haired girl stood motionless for 10, perhaps 15 seconds, and when her eyes had finally adjusted to the light, "What's this?" She noticed a crate on the ground at her feet. She turned her head back to ask Michael about the box, but the mansion was so dark it appeared to be wholly severed from the outside world. From where she stood, she was unable to distinguish Michael from the shadows. A pang of nervousness struck her. She wanted to return to the darkness as quickly as possible. The white-haired girl had come to yearn for that world without light more than one whit. The crate was fairly hefty. The slightly built girl had considerable difficulty bringing it into the house. But eventually, she did manage to drag it through the front door. And then, everything went dark once more, except for the faint flicker of candlelight floating in the air. You can leave it there. I'll take care of the rest. What? Without a word, Michael approached her and the box, withdrawing a knife that he had evidently kept hidden somewhere on his person. With it, he cut through the rope that bound the box. Go on, open it up. At his insistence, she placed her hand upon the lid. She had no idea what lay inside this unexpected delivery. Whoever had brought it, it was already long gone. Staring at the strange box, she was wrecked with nervousness. However, what she found when she pushed aside the lid was completely ordinary food. Is something amusing? It was just rather anticlimactic. Here I was worried about what might be inside. We were just talking about the supplies in the cellar. So, we were. It completely slipped my mind. This should last us for some time. It's all preserved, just like what's in the cellar. But I don't understand. Who would deliver all of this to you? There should be a book in there as well. What? Oh, there it is. Oh, I believe he said he gets a book every month, so it's probably a monthly supplies he gets from his family. I believe that's what he said before. In the library, he said that his family sent him one book a month. Yeah, okay. Does that mean this box came from them? If so, then why did the person who delivered this leave without speaking to him? What happened between him and his family? Is he here because they want him here? Or because he chose to be here? Take the book to the library, please. I will bring the rest of the supplies to the cellar. But it's a big box. I'm sure you could use some help carrying it. That won't be necessary. Take the book and go. But, fine, then stay here. I'll take care of everything. Wait, hold on, please. What is it? You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. And I'm not trying to pry, but I can't help but be curious. Say what you have to say, please. Yeah, he's in a hurry, clearly. I was wondering if you could tell me why you live here in this mansion. Why did whoever delivered this box leave before you even opened the door? Could you perhaps be imprisoned here? I told you this the very first day. I'm cursed. It's only natural for cursed men to live in a cursed house. Yes, but that's such a vague answer. I don't understand why you're in the situation you are. I don't know how you feel about it. There's so much I don't know. And I'm not even sure if your curse actually exists. I see. That is a perfectly reasonable doubt from your point of view. Having been branded a witch because of your appearance, it would make sense that you would think my curse might be fabricated or perhaps a metaphor for something else. Alright then, come with me. What? I'll show you my curse. As he turned on his heel, the white-haired girl caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a smirk on his face, like the whole thing was some kind of a sick joke. That smile carved into his mask was far colder than any look of annoyance or rejection. But despite the twinge of nervousness, she still followed after Michael. As much as he might have stood out in the crowd, with such height and long hair, his presence was almost entirely eroded away by the darkness. She felt that he could simply fade away into nothingness at any moment. Many things are buried here. Huh? Mice, insects, wild cats, and dogs. Have you ever thought it strange how little life there seemed to be around this mansion? You're right. I haven't seen a single creature since I arrived. The only sound you can hear is the wind blowing. Now that you mention it, it did seem peculiar. They were all killed by me, or rather, they lost a life because of me. You have your answer now. A butterfly fluttered its way into the ruined garden, dancing up and down through the air. Michael held out a finger before himself, and the butterfly, mistaking it for a branch, drifted down upon it to rest its wings. Had the scene stopped there, it would have been a picturesque moment. All that comes in contact with me loses its life. My skin, the breath I exhale, my flesh and blood, is poison to all life. But the butterfly movement began to slow. It spread its wings in one last futile attempt to fight gravity, and then, without warning, it shriveled up into a dry husk. Ooh. It's dead, all dried up and lifeless. Like it's been dead for days. It's like his finger drained the life out of it. Is this his curse? Is that even possible? But I saw it with my own eyes. If this is his curse, though, it explains much. There are more than just insects and animal corpses buried here, too. Servants who came to visit me long ago are here beneath the ground, under our very feet. Oh, man. So everything it touches just gets drained of life. That's why the servant leaves before I open the door. Should he touch me, should he get near me, his very life is in danger. But the white-haired girl is okay. No one is interested enough in seeing me to take that risk. No one will have anything to do with me. Neri's soul even wishes to see my face. Now you understand what I meant when I said I would eventually kill you. So that's why you have never once touched me. When I knocked the books down in the library, you didn't offer your hand to help me up. And only one of us ever made contact with the box at the entrance at the time. When I offered to help you carry it, you refused, because you didn't want your finger accidentally brush against mine. My actions were not out of concern for you. I simply dislike people. Others' interest means nothing to me. What an odd face you're making. Do you not believe my curse is real? No, I do. It is certainly rational, inexplicable, unbelievable. But you've shown me more than enough evidence. And I don't believe you're lying to me right now either. In which case, you now understand how dangerous it is to be near me. You said that if you left, you would be killed. But it's been some time since then. If you're careful to cover your tracks, you could make your escape. You do not belong here. He was telling him the truth about being cursed. What a cruel burden to have to bear. I can't imagine just how much he's given up on. How many lives inadvertently taken. And how he must have felt every time it happened. How much pain the loneliness must have given him. How much despair he must carry in his heart. How much sorrow must be weighing down on him. So no, I will not leave. I will stay here with you. Leave this place. No, I will not. Why? Why do you insist upon remaining in this house after learning what I can do? You have no reason to stay. Tell me then, why do you try to drive me out? If you don't care for others, as you say, if you're not concerned about anyone else, then what does it matter what I do? What does it matter if I die in to your curse? You're a very kind-hearted man. You've been watching out for me since the day I arrived, doing whatever you can to not inadvertently kill me, to not afflict me with your curse. No, here's what I think. No one is capable of showing genuine care for others can honestly, truly dislike all people. They can't possibly be indifferent. No, that day we met before the stained glass window, you heard me out. You listened to my plight. You didn't try to chase me out. That day, I thought you to be a good person, and I still believe that. I simply assumed you would live on your own when it was safe. I never thought you would be so foolish as to want to stay in a house like this with a man like me. How does that make me foolish? Do you not value your life? Are you not afraid of death? Do you not find me unpleasant? The thing I fear most is loneliness. You're probably right that. By now, I could safely sneak away, get myself somewhere far from here. But even if I did, I would inevitably find myself in the same situation. The only way I can avoid that fate is to stay away from everyone, to live in solitude with no one to talk to. I know you understand how that feels. It terrifies me. I'm afraid of having to spend day after day with no one to talk to, no one to share my experiences, my thought, my feeling with. If that's what awaits me out there, then I want to live with you. I want you to be an essential part of my life. Impossible. Please, don't chase me out. You are a cruel girl. Never again will I allow myself to get close to someone, only to watch them die. Never again. My mother was the first to die. It happened shortly after my birth. Next was my wet nurse. Two deaths could have been considered a coincidence, but as the number rose, it became clear that I was cursed, and I was forbidden from making contact with anyone, even at home. Regardless, being in the same house, accidents will happen. Numerous people lost their lives. Attendants unfamiliar with me or those who simply brushed up against me by mistake. I couldn't take it any longer. So you chose to move here, to this remote mansion to keep yourself away from your family. You weren't imprisoned here. You elected to live alone, so you wouldn't hurt anyone. For better or for worse, I was born into a noble house. So rather than abandon me, they provided me the means to live out of sight. I will be very careful. I will do everything I can to assure no accidents occur, to keep you from being alone again. I will not for any reason touch you. You have my promise. Your curse takes the life of anything you touch. I've been here for a while, and death has not befallen me yet. As long as I do not touch you, there shouldn't be a problem. Also, and I apologize if this is simply me reading too much into things, but I feel like we're two of a kind. I fear being utterly alone more than anything, and I think you understand just how scary that is. So, why are you so stubbornly insisted on it being me? I'm sure there is someone else out there, someone you're meant to be with. You may not have found them yet, but I believe someone like you eventually will. Because unlike me, you still have the vigor to press forward. It has to be you, I'm certain of it. Why? Because, you can't tell me? No, I can, just, please don't get upset with me. Huh? I think I might really, really love you. Whoa, that's very forward and early. His was a power that evoked images of witches or demons, the unclean and the impure. A mere touch was all it took for him to strip a man and beast alike of its life. God has quite a cruel streak to bestow such a power upon such a beautiful young man. And a strange power it was indeed, like something out of a fairy tale, like something confined to words upon the page. It seems otherworldly, unbelievable. Nonetheless, as he had demonstrated to the white-haired girl, his peculiar power were indeed real. That said, the world had its fair share of oddities. It just so happens that those curiosities tend to remain hidden away, known only to a few. Although you have laid eyes upon a number of unusual phenomena yourself, master, the doors to the past through which we have passed, this very mansion, and, as a matter of fact, the two of us. Now, as you just saw, the white-haired girl found herself enraptured with this man and his accursed power. How do you think Michael acted in response to her proclamation? He had spent so long refusing to interact with others, no, unable to interact with them. As such, he was unsure how to respond. After standing there expressionless for a few moments, he muttered, "I'll consider it." And with that, he returned to his chambers. While he was not someone who wore his heart on his sleeve, I personally do not believe he was completely devoid of emotions. He had simply forgotten how to express them in his extended solitude. So I think he was, in that moment, in a state of complete panic. She had, after all, just assaulted him with a stream of incomprehensible declarations. That, knowing the truth, she still wished to remain in the mansion. And that, knowing the truth, she loved him. The love she had declared for Michael was not a fleeting puppy love. There was genuine tenderness and warmth to her words. But he had gone through his life shunned, feared, pushed away. To him, that was normal. He had never given anyone reason to have any fondness for him, so he found himself utterly unsure how to take the affection she was showing. Of course, he was not the only one rattled by the whole affair. Oh dear. Several days had passed since Michael had asked for time to think. He had still yet to show himself again. This is all my fault. The white-haired girl paced anxiously through the halls, on the off chance she might run into him. As per his request, though, she kept her distance from his chambers. Nevertheless, she was beginning to worry about the fact that he had secluded himself away for so long. So she worked up her courage and made her way to his room. What if, what if he doesn't want to see me ever again? I didn't consider I might be overstepping my bounds before opening my mouth. Every step she took was slow and laborious. Her mind raced with worry and doubt. I should at least tell him I'm sorry. Rather out of desire to know how he felt, she was compelled by guilt and a desire to apologize. After walking for some time, she arrived at the door sitting in an utterly unlit hallway. She drew in a breath of musty air, then let it out, repeating the process several times. Next, she reached her hand up to knock on the door, then pulled it back, also doing this a number of times. Oh, how adorable she was. I wanted nothing more than to give her a little nudge. After all, she was too sweet of a girl for her worries to be anything but misplaced. I just can't find the courage. Maybe I should come back another day. But what's the point of waiting? I need to apologize and get the weight off his back now. She gathered her courage once more, this time determined she would do it. The white-haired girl moved her small fist toward the door, which then swung open. I'm sorry. Please, you must announce your presence. I almost walked right into you. Are you in that much of a hurry for a mishap? I'm sorry. And I believe I told you to stay away from my chambers. You did. So I spent a long time debating whether I would, but I decided I really want to tell you this. Oh, well, actually, I'm truly sorry. What? The other day, I could barely manage to get my words in my head all the way to my mouth. There was no room in my mind for anything else. I shoved my own thought and feeling into your face, not considering that that might not be what you wanted, just running non-stop, no thinking at all. I was terribly disrespectful to you, completely selfish. You're a kind-hearted man, I truly believe that, but you were only being courteous because you're a nice man. I'm sure you have little interest in the affections of a queer little girl. So, I would love it if I could stay here. It would be a wonderful blessing. But if you really don't want me here, if my feelings are imposing upon you, then I apologize. I'm sorry, and I will take my leave of this house. I'm sorry. Don't be, my mind went blank for a moment. What? I find it difficult to comprehend you. The other day you were firm in your intentions to stay, and now you say you'll leave without a struggle. You holed up in your room for so long that I thought you didn't want me around. To be honest, I want to stay here. I do. I think you should do whatever pleases you. Huh? You can stay, or you can leave. I will not pressure you to do one or the other. So, I'm not imposing? To tell you the truth, I had to think about that for some time. However, I have now come to something of a solution. Since you're here, come into my room. What? But I thought I wasn't allowed to prevent what almost happened a few moments ago, so we don't accidentally run into each other. Sorry. You're forgiven. Now, come in. Man, I really love this character. Okay, Michael is really cool. He's so considerate. Is this a necklace? If that's what it looks like to you, then I suppose that means I succeeded. Pick it up. It has a little bell. Oh, he made her a necklace with a bell so she can always announce her position, so they don't mistakenly run into each other. That is amazing. It's adorable. Please make an effort to wear that while you're in this house. Because it's so dark, there will always exist the risk that we might accidentally bump into one another. So I tried to come up with a way to reduce that risk. Does that mean you didn't leave your room because you were working on this? That's right. What other reason would I have? I think most people would assume it because they had put you in a bad mood, or that you didn't want to see them. I have a little sense of how most people see this world. Sorry. I appreciate it though. I'm really glad to know that you put so much thought into a life together with me. It would be difficult not to, after the other day. I'm so happy right now. I can't think of any better word to describe it. I couldn't be happier. You're being dramatic. To tell you the truth, I feel a little bad about it. Why? It seems rather impertinent to affix a bell to someone. You're not a livestock, you're a person. That's why you turned it into a necklace? Thank you very much. I will keep it on me at all times. I really truly appreciate it. Lord Michael. Don't call me Lord, please. Alright then, I'll just call you Michael. And will you please call me Giselle? The windows. What? If you could open the windows. Never mind. I was just thinking you wouldn't need the bell at all if we could get some light in here. Huh? They can't be opened. They're rusted shut. All the windows have been shuttered for as long as I've been here. I assumed you had boarded them all up. That was done long before I arrived here. After so many years here, though, I hardly consider it an inconvenience anymore. It also serves to repel the wanderers. Oh, really? Huh. Is there something odd about that? No. I realized I had the wrong impression about a number of things. As I learn more, I see things in a different light. See you in a different light. And I'm sure there's still plenty more for me to learn. Of all the people I have ever met, you are perhaps the most difficult to predict. Not only do you not have you have no aversion to the darkness, the dark has always been a close friend of mine. Which isn't to say I dislike the sun, its light can simply be too strong for me. I'm like some kind of an unholy monster that can be exposed to the sunlight. You're anything but unholy. My name would suit you. Much better than me. Oh, what was that? Some sort of a flickering? That day, when I first saw Giselle, I was wary of her, apprehensive. I didn't want her anywhere near me, but as my doubts about her faded, I began feeling something very different. As though the lump in my heart had been melted away, I began to yearn for her to be at my side, knowing full well it couldn't possibly last, knowing full well how foolish it was. I found myself captivated by her. I found myself wishing to have her stay with me. Oh no. Can already tell this one is not gonna have a... Oh my days. Okay. And that marked the true beginning of their quiet days together in the dark mansion. They acknowledged and accepted each other's presence, no longer isolating themselves, but actively, regularly, conversing. As mundane as it might be, it was something they had been unable to attain until then. Nevertheless, they were still somewhat fumbling around in the dark, with one another, drawing closer and pushing away again. Michael, in his own ungraceful way, was beginning to open himself up to the things she said. And the white-haired girl was beginning to smile with greater frequency. She had taken to dining together, and her wishing of learning to read was being granted. He thought her in the feeble light of a candle placed upon the table, the two sitting across from one another. Though Michael seemed to be well educated, he had not been instructed in the art of teaching, so he found the process quite grueling. But to the white-haired girl, the longer it took, the better. Her primary objective was, after all, to spend time with him. The days passed, and eventually she reached a point where her comprehension was adequate enough without assistance. Her next request was for them to read through a book together. Have you read every book in the library? No, I stopped looking at them after a while. Most everything I'm sent is a dull, uninformative dreck. The Diary of a Lord, foolish make-believe tales. You're not fond of fiction, I take it. What value is there in the lies and fantasies of another? Stories can be invigorating. Tales of an adventure can take you places you could never go. Legends of heroes, folklore, story of otherworldly phenomena. They can be terrifying and they can be exhilarating. They may not be real, but they give you a little glimpse into the author's heart. Let you feel like you're seeing the same thing they saw. You are a very empathetic girl. Fiction inspires nothing of the sort in me. However, perhaps long ago it may have been able to, though I can no longer remember what it feels like. I'm sure it will come back to you. You're not an empty man. Sorry, I'm making you uncomfortable again. How about we read this book today? It appeared to be a collection of legends. You haven't read this one yet, then. That's good to hear. It'll be more enjoyable if it's a new experience for the both of us. It looks like it's a record of local legends. The book is divided into several sections, though it appears to be mostly superstition. I'm curious what kind of stories this area has. The two of them were looking down at a simple, undecorated volume. As the white-haired girl had said, it seems to be a collection of local legend passed down generation to generation. They sat across from one another at the table, her turning the pages and Michael simply watching so to not brush against her. Eventually, her eyes were drawn to a particular word on one of the pages, bringing her hands to a stop. The witch! That chapter detailed the story of a witch, or more precisely said, witch curse. The story went something like this. Oh, that's interesting. There once was a witch skilled in the dark arts. She lived a meager but peaceful life along the other villagers. But then a long drought struck the village, which the people blamed on the witch. The witch was sentenced to death, and as the fire blazed around her, smoke rose high into the air. The smoke soon became rain clouds, blessing the village with an end to the drought. The crops were revitalized, and the villagers fancied themselves heroes. However, the rain also brought madness upon the people. Though the earth below them was lush and fertile, the villagers were losing their minds, and they eventually began to take each other's lives. The witch still lived on, in the form of a curse. Many fell victim to the witch curse, though it did not only take it, it also fulfilled people's desires. The villagers had gone mad, but their wish for freedom from the drought had been granted. Well, I guess. Thus, the legend has been passed down as follows. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens, but know that road is a road to destruction. That is kind of like the mansion. I mean, that is pretty much the same effect. Interesting. People still believe the witch legend even now, I suppose. And that's why I face accusation of being a witch. This is not an area very welcoming to outsiders, especially one who stands out as much as you. What brought you to this region in the first place? Mine is a story I'm sure you've heard before. I was cast out of my house. I come from a very poor family. We could barely even afford to keep everyone fed. Being as weak as I am, it was only natural that I would be the first to go. I see. What I don't understand though is why the witch is said to grant people wishes. That is to say, she had a reason enough to hold grudge but not to give people things they ask for. All we have to go on is a few pages. There's no saying that what we might have been changed or added over time, and it's almost certain the entire legend isn't written here. That said, if we are to accept everything as written, you can infer what the witch reason might have been. And that is, if you truly want it that much, you can have it, but I'll make certain your suffering outweighs it. Despair that comes after a moment of happiness is far more agonizing than despair alone. Ah, man, don't you... Wow, yeah, you are right about that, King. I've been suffering through this game. Every time I think there's gonna be a happy ending, this game just struck me with a 10-kilo hammer. I presume that is why the witch decided to grant people wishes. That is one way to look at it. May I ask you something? Go on. When I first arrived here, you told me that a cursed witch used to live in this mansion. After reading this legend, I'm now finding it hard to believe you made that up simply to scare me away. I appropriated the tale, nothing more. It is said the witch was born in this house. What? Quite a place my family found for me. Yeah, that is true. But it was a clever decision putting me here, I think. Not many people are likely to come near a house with such a pedigree. But, no. Never mind. That makes sense. I suspect I know what she was going to say then. If the witch is said to grant wishes, then wouldn't that also attract people who so desperately want something? Oh, wow. She called it out. They do not care what price they must pay. And perhaps she was correct. Perhaps there had been those who had come to the mansion chasing after the legend, and perhaps they had encountered Michael, touched him, and lost their lives. On that day in the garden, he had said, "Many things are buried here." Perhaps that included such visitors. I wonder if that story might be more than mere superstition. If the witch of legend really did exist, what would you do? Huh, it might be nice to talk to her maybe. That's all? Really? I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visit her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine how lonely that must be. I swear I cannot comprehend the way your mind works. Sorry. Although, I assume if the legend is true, I have an idea what climb for the heavens might mean. Oh, the mansion has an observation tower. Or, I suppose, what used to be an observation tower. At any rate, it is quite a tall structure. This is the house where the witch was supposedly born. A tower reaching for the heavens seems like the perfect place to find her, if she really is here. Oh yes, I remember seeing a rather tall structure as I first approached the mansion. Would you like to see it? Of course. Please, lead the way. The two of them left the library and made their way to the room with a stained glass window. At the far end of that room were the stairs to the observation tower, the tale of which had piqued the white-haired girl's interest, inspiring her to put herself forward to satisfy that curiosity. She had, after all, been accused of being a witch herself, so she undoubtedly felt an affinity to the legend. What a sweet girl she was. Now we're reaching the tower. Oh, it's happening. With Michael in the lead, the two climbed along long spiral staircase. There were many more stairs than the white-haired girl had anticipated, and she soon found herself short of breath. Rectangular windows were carved out of the stone in regular intervals. Peering through one of them, she could see a village in the distance. A pleasantly cool, high-altitude breeze brushed across her face. After much climbing, they finally arrived at the top, where a door made of partially rotted wood stood. Michael pulled open the door, revealing a small room with no windows or doors in sight. This is the top of the tower. Despite it being called Observation Tower, you could hardly observe anything from there. Her face contorted in confusion, the white-haired girl threw her gaze about the room. Glancing up, she only saw a darkened ceiling, and slightly below it, a single small window through which shone a little ray of light. The beam cleaved through the darkness like a sharpened blade of a beautiful sword. The darkness draped over the rest of the room only served to make more impressive that solitary ray of light. It had a magical fairy tale quality to it. As if being pulled in by it, she drew towards the light. I suspect there was once a larger window in this room. If you look closely, you can see seams in the stones of the wall. The color of the stone differs slightly on the either side of the seams. I presume something caused them to seal off the window after it was built, though I don't know what was that something might be. Oh! Wow! When Michael's eyes fell upon the white-haired girl wrapped in the beam of light, he sputtered to a stop. The man who never flinched at anything, who had long since distanced himself from such stirrings of the heart, was utterly bewitched. He had never seen her illuminated so vividly before, and he was having a great deal of trouble in finding the words to describe her striking beauty. For someone who had been chased out of her home and accused of being a witch, the white-haired girl looked less like a practitioner of the dark arts, and more like one of the host of heaven. Michael undoubtedly felt the same way, for his gaze was affixed firmly upon her. Ah, dazzling, isn't it? Like staircase leading to heaven. Yes, perhaps so. Is something the matter? No, I'm fine. It feels like there's something odd in the air here. It feels like someone actually might be listening. If the witch were to speak to you, what would you say to her? I would ask her to tell me of her true feelings, to tell me what kind of person she was, and what kind of pain she had to endure. I just want to know what she felt, this woman people branded a witch. The legend was written from a neutral perspective. It's possible that she was a fearsome witch. It's also possible she wasn't. I get that feeling. She was just persecuted, like me. Like me and you. Unlike you, I truly am impure. Disagree all you want, but my touch kills. I'm a strange, incomprehensible, irrational creature. Or maybe I'm not even a living being, and that's why when I touch something that is, I bring them death. If only I actually were a witch. If only I actually had some kind of extraordinary power, regardless of whether it came from God or the devil, then I would be able to grant people wishes. My wish need not be granted. But it's what I want too. I wish to be able to touch you. I would be perfectly content with nothing changing, with us never being able to touch one another. I would be more than happy with that. But I'm allowed to dream, aren't I? It doesn't have to be in this life. I pray the day will come that we can get closer, even if it has to happen in another life. Whoa. Happiness is very much stranger to me, but I'm allowed to dream too. You are. I will never touch you, I swear it, but I would like to dream about it. I would like to imagine placing my hand upon your cheek. You can. Reach your hand out for me. I will imagine it too. I am imagining your fingers running through my hair, brushing up against my skin. I can feel your warmth. There was a wall between them, a wall they could not cross. For if they did, it would mean the white-haired girl's death. No matter how much they yearned for it, they could not touch one another. So they did it so within the confines of their imaginations, envisioning it as in much detail as they could manage. It was sad but sweet, a moment of pristine, unattained beauty. The two of them emanated serenity. As fitting as the word cursed might have been to the mansion as a whole, at the top of the observation tower, a pure bond was being shared. A fleeting moment between a young man with a cursed touch and a kind-hearted, beautiful girl. The dream did not last long, no, for God is quite cruel. Don't do this to me, please, I'm invested. They simply want to be together, that was all. Their wish was hardly unreasonable. Only a quiet, peaceful life together. But misfortune was creeping ever nearer, its footsteps growing more and more pronounced. Is someone at the door? The flow of time was hazy within the mansion walls. They had little way of telling whether it was night or day, preventing them from knowing exactly how much time had passed. The white-haired girl had made a habit of climbing the observation tower every so often to see whether the sun was up, which allowed her to approximate the time of day. Consequently, when she heard the knock on the door, she was not aware just how deep the night was outside, that forest and beast alike lay quietly at rest. All right, the stores in the cellar are almost exhausted. It must be this month's delivery. Not thinking it was worth bothering Michael over, she made her way out of the chamber and headed for the entrance. There had only been a single knock, leading her to conclude that, as before, the servant had simply left the box outside the door. So without a second thought, she opened the door, and there she saw a strange, vagrant man standing in the moonlight. His clothes were tattered, his bearded face, bony, was emaciated. She gasped, shrieking back several paces. The heavy door began to swing shut, but the man forced it open. glaring down at her with unfocused eyes and mumbling, "Are ye the witch that grant people wishes?" It was in that moment that the white-haired girl realized she had been careless. The man had sought out the mansion because he believed the legend of the witch, and he did not seem particularly right of mind either. Perhaps a result of wandering through the forest for several days, or perhaps it was because he was so beaten down that he thought to ask for witch's help. In a word, he seemed mad. "No, there's no witch here." "Sure there is. Don't ye lie to me. I can hear the witch voice. She led me to this house." "Nah, I promise you, there isn't. Now, please, be on your way. Have ye any idea how long it took to find this place? Oh, how many days I've gone without food or water? And you're telling me to get lost? I don't know what you want from me. I'm happy to give you a little food, so please." "Is there really no witch?" "Perhaps there's no witch here. It's nothing but a legend. If she does exist, she doesn't live here." "I see. Then that means you're just an ordinary person." Just a person. Just a girl. So there ain't a thing you can do." "No, get away from me. What are you doing?" "Why waste time waiting for you to get a little grub when I can just take it all? I'm starving here. I'm so hungry I could eat human." "You're about to commit a grievous sin. Are you not ashamed to act in defiance of God?" "God? If I believed in God, would I come begging to a witch? I don't fear him, and I'm sure as hell don't fear people. Oh, gonna shell out a house in the middle of nowhere? Who's gonna call me out? Who's gonna stop me? No one. That's who. No one's gonna stop me, and no one's gonna offer me salvation." There's a thought. You're a woman, so before I kill ya... "What are you doing?" "What? There's other people here." "Touch him, Michael, please." The white-haired girl lay pinned on the floor beneath the yelling bandit, pleading for help with her ruby eyes. As soon as Michael grasped the situation, he tossed his candlestick aside and leapt for the man. The candlestick gave a sharp clank when it hit the floor. The impact extinguished the flame, bringing the mansion near perfect darkness. Something glinted in the bandit's hand, and then, without hesitation, he thrusted it at Michael. Michael! How stupid it must have been to come at me unarmed. In his hand, the man held a knife, its tip dripping with Michael's blood. Red spilled from the gash in his arm, the flow growing heavier with each passing moment. "You're the only other person here, by the looks of it, huh? Perfect. I'll take you both out." "You... what? You don't appear to know whose house you try to break into." "What are you on about?" "Regret your ignorance to the very last breath. You're messed up in the head, you madman. Stay the old back. Take one more step in." Oh, we gave him the touch. The drain touch. I inherited the witch's curse. Let go. Michael clutched the man's face in one hand. The man raised his knife to strike back, but... What's happening? The strength drained from his finger, the knife falling to the floor. The man writhed in Michael's grip. My face, I can't breathe. Leave this place immediately, though you won't get far afflicted with my curse. Oh man, he gave him the drain touch. Helpless to fight back, nay, helpless to even consider fighting back, the bandit fled from the mansion in terror. In his wake, only the white-haired girl and the bleeding Michael remained. I just saw a man life drained from him. His face withered away, sucked completely dry. I didn't doubt him, but, dear God, that was quite disturbing for you, I'm sure. No, not at all. It's my fault anyway, if I hadn't been so careless. Oh, your arm, we need to get that wrapped up. Please do not touch me. You mustn't touch me. The wound is hardly fatal. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. No, A degree of the blame falls on me for saying nothing. Next time when someone comes to the door, let me know. I'm sorry. Please, you don't need to apologize. Well, yes? For once, I'm actually proud of myself. Proud that I could use this terrible ability of mine to do something more than just take a life. To protect someone I care about. So like I said, please don't apologize. Alright, thank you. Michael, I'm glad you're here. I care about you too. Thank you. Yeah, that was cool. That was an optimal usage of his powers. Oh, had the flame of Michael Candle not gone out when he threw it to the floor, he would have been seen a heartfelt smile on the white-haired girl's face, and she would have seen a flush of red and an awkward smile on Michael's normally blank face. He also might have been a little glimmer on the cheek. I have seen a little glimmer on the cheek where a few drops of his blood had landed. But alas, they had no light. And that would be all for today's episode. And this was a really good one. I got kind of emotional in the observation tower part. I got to admit, I got a little bit choked up. But honestly, man, I'm so invested in this. I promised myself I wouldn't get this invested because I know it's gonna end up in misfortune. But I got invested anyway, so I'm ready to cry again and to get my heart broken by this game for the fourth time, because that's what the game does to you. It just gives you happiness and then sucks it all away. So I'm ready for that. I'm just kidding. I'm not ready for that, but you know what? I'm still hoping for some sort of a bittersweet ending, even though I'm pretty sure this one will end in misfortune as well. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, I have this slight tinge of hope that I might be wrong about this. But yeah, as I said, this is all for now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.